Hey there, Aries. Gonna try this again. I'm a little bit peeved right now because I just recorded for like 30 minutes and then the phone crapped out and there's no video recording. So for whatever reason, that's the deal. So I am gonna start again, and this is what it is. So this is a card reading for Aries for February 2024. I just had a little food in between. I also burned my food. So really doing great here in this half hour. Okay, so to start, we have as ourself is in the center of the axis. We're doing the axis Mundi spread, is the mother card. So take a look here. We've got bird's nest, snake / rope, hands folding on top of each other, almost like a lotus flower, a pearl in the center, and this hand coming out here above the pearl. And so a lot of things were coming up for me. This is a very charged card for me today. Okay. The doorway in. We can all be mothers to different capacities in our lives. We can be mothers to our pets, to our projects, to our loved ones, and actual mothers, right? And to be initiated into motherhood means to sacrifice everything you thought that you were. Your identity, your dreams, your desires, your time, right? When you become mother, there is a reorienting of mission, of goals. It demands everything from you, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You are training this thing to come to life so that it is a good human being or a successful project or nurturing relationship or whatever that may be. I'm collecting my thoughts because I don't want to do another hour recording. So I'm just trying to hit highlights, but yeah, so with the, in the light spectrum of the mother, it's a space that we feel held, seen, supported, unconditionally loved and validated. This bird's nest here represents the safety of your home and in your womb, right? Because your mother is your first mouth. She's your first friend. She is your lifeline, right? You cry, you want to go into the arms of the mother. So finding that comfort for yourself, right? And so this can be in the healthy ways or unhealthy ways. So how are you creating emotional safety mechanisms for yourself? Are we overeating? Are we, having sex with a bunch of people for validation? Are we actually totally in healthy space where we are giving ourselves the needs that we, fulfilling our own needs so that we're not putting that dependency on others, forcing other people knowingly or unknowingly into the position of mothering us, right? So this card can represent that emotional dependency, emotional security, right? How we create emotional safety for ourselves, how we mother ourselves. This snake here too, it represents ultimate transformation. And just like I said, when you do become a mother of something, it demands sacrifice. It demands your blood, sweat, and tears, right? You drop your identity of who you thought you were, and then you become everything to this thing. You bleed on the cornerstone, this foundation of, initiation. And so with that comes a certain amount of binding. One can feel constricted around that. The sleep schedule, the eating schedule, the finances, the time restrictions, the loss of identity. There's a deep, deep, deep grieving that can happen here, especially because we have this idea of what it's going to be a mother and have children, or what it's going to be once we have this business up and running in this project, or what it's going to be a spiritual figure in our community. And we have these ideas, but until we walk through it, and walking through it is the making of us, that demands, like Inanna going into the underworld, it's demanding, your identity, your attachment to things, even honey, I wish I wanted to have sex, but I don't. My hormones are crazy. My vagina just popped out a baby. Like, I am not feeling it. I'm so sorry I can't be that for you. But it's just like it comes up with all this stuff that is so unseen until you're walking through it, right? And so there's a little bit of that, like, I don't want to say illusion, because that's not quite where I want to go with it, but just a little bit more of like these particular experiences make us, you know, and we can never foresee how. Maybe that's just what I'll say there. And with this, with the mother, comes in its shadow the motherhood wounds, right? So what that can look like is, if I give birth to this baby, you know, will I die in child labor? Will someone steal my baby? Will someone kill this baby? Can I sustain life for this baby? You know, maybe I'm not mature enough or whatever. And so again, in an abstract way, we can apply this to our projects. Like, if I build this business, is it going to succeed or is it going to fail? Like, you know, maybe people will laugh at me or blah, 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 blah. So that mother wound is all about sustaining life. And the other thing I want to say about the mother card is it reminds me of Ceres, Persephone's mother. And what the shadow can look like there is that Persephone's and Ceres, or Demeter, whoever you want to use, I won't go down that road. But the idea is that they live in spring and summer at all times. It's rose-colored glasses. Everything is always abundant. Everything is always happy. They literally like live in paradise. And so everything is in its perfect place and it's perfect and peachy and keen. And so the minute that something is not, it threatens paradise. And then you get this mother that's very, very protective, right, of that space. And it can be like a helicopter parent, right? And the other thing that can happen there is a cold barrenness, right? So the best example that I have for this is I'm very, very, very protective over my energy in the morning. I really do not, I'm not a morning person. And so my routine and my ritual in the morning is very sacred to me. And if anything goes out of whack with that, it really throws me off and I can get very, very cranky. And when I am cranky, I am very cold, distant, and barren, right? And so it's sucking the life out of that entire environment. Also is punishment, right? There's many ways that we can punish people. And so it's like, you better fall in line to my idea of Eden's garden, or you gonna get it, right? So all of that can come inherently with the mother. And so these are all things to think about how you're showing up in your life right now or in this month, or how other people might be showing up in this way in your life, right? And the other thing that was really standing out to me in this card, particularly today, not always, but today, what was really, really standing out for me is this hand here that's over this pearl. And for whatever reason, this hand feels really ominous to me today. It feels like an imposter mother, right? Where it's like, ooh, maybe if I put on the right, it's almost like there's this alligator with this mannequin hand, you know, that's like, I'm gonna go steal the baby egg, but they won't know because I've got a mom hand, you know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah, this pearl represents something of value that you have worked on through irritation and tension, right? Like pearls are basically specks of dust that flow into a clam or an oyster or whatever, and then it gets all, and then we think it's cool and we make jewelry out of it and it has value, right? And so the same thing is like these initiations or experiences, these projects are irritations, and yet they have so much value to us. And so in this card, yeah, there's just like this ominous feeling about like who's coming in as an imposter and trying to steal your values, your valuables, your baby, your pearl, right? Your essence, that thing that you are growing. So I would say that there's a sense of boundaries here. The next card that we have in place is in our cosmic upper world. So no matter what, the thing is good. This is the forces that's in our corner cheering us on and helping us in this path. And we have the castle card. So here you go. It's predominantly green, which is heart chakra. So what I love about that is that it kind of flows into that idea of the mother's garden with all that growth, green abundance, right? And it also follows still with this theme of the pearls, except this time the pearls are in a string and a square and a window. And that's because the castle represents the structures, the lenses, the systems that we have in place in life that create this physical thing. It's a little bit more patriarchal, can be patriarchal, but I want to say it's more masculine in nature rather than feminine in nature, like the mother. And what I think is really cool about this is that in astrology, everything is on an axis, everything has its opposite. And so in this case, Cancer is represented by the mother, by the womb, by our safety space. And Capricorn, on its opposite, its polarity point, it's yin and yang, right? Is, the Cancer's opposite polarity point is Capricorn. And Capricorn represents our system structures, traditions. It's the disciplinarian father. And it is represented by the castle. So again, status, structure, reputation, systems put in place. Our boundaries, our limitations. And so I really love that this is, to me, emphasizing that need for boundary, for protection, especially, I'll keep going, maybe I'll save that for after, but yeah, for our protection. And basically that's like, you know what, your heart is a living, breathing thing where there is a, inner you inside, maybe a sleeping beauty or the maiden or the inner child or whatever, and she needs protecting, right? And so yes, again, this can go always into distortion, but because it's in the place of good things, we're going to go with the good things. And that's that boundaries are really important to keep us safe, including your heart, right? If you just keep dishing your heart out over and over and allowing people who are pretending to be safe to come in and take pieces of your heart, and be pearls, then you got nothing left. And then you become a crappy person too, or just really crappy, like not happy in your life, right? And then you're not serving anybody. So yeah, the castle is about like protecting what's the inside of that, right? Like if somebody is trying to get into the castle, there's only one way. It's the drawbridge door, right? And so there's a very conscious, I know who I'm letting in. Okay, now they can come into the mushy, ushy, gushy, and they have access to the royal family, right? To the resources, to the valuables, to the village people, to the king, to the queen, to everybody. But if not, be prepared to be met with like boiling oil and arrows on fire and all that crazy stuff, because you ain't allowed in. You got not trustworthy motives, you know what I'm saying? So just knowing that the boundaries can keep us safe, right? And trust your experience, trust your knowing. I think the pearls represent each of these initiations where it's like, that's the time you learned about that kind of relationship. That's the time you learned about that kind of red flag, right? And you've been birthed and initiated over and over through your experience. And so don't doubt your experience. Trust your gut feelings to inform, trust your gut feelings to create that emotional safety, and then make your boundaries and stick up for them so that you can create that safe emotional inner space with both your mother, your feminine, and your masculine, right? That's how we reparent ourselves. And I think that's just like super important. This whole reading, I think, is about boundaries. Because then we come into the underworld position, and the underworld is that nitty gritty shifty shit that is controlling stuff in the subconscious and like creating chaos. And we have the bridge, and I think that's hilarious because we are literally talking about bridges into our safe space. And so with this card, normally it's a really friendly card, but because it's in the space of the underworld, I'm really feeling, again, just this lack of boundaries where it's like, who are you actually letting into your castle and your sacred space? And should they freaking be there? Maybe you need to vet them a little harder, So don't give energy where energy does not deserve to go. And I pulled some clarification cards before the phone had shut down. And the clarification cards that come up are empathy. So Moon and Pisces, which again makes so much sense. Pisces is very porous. It is the dreamer. And our moon corresponds with the mother. It's that emotional realm, right? Your intuition, your container, your safety container. And so I would say like over empathizing with people who do not entirely deserve your empathy. It's okay to have compassion for people and you can have empathy for people. But for me, I know I can say like, as soon as I start dipping into people's like I have a lot of people who are close to me who tell me like I'm My empathy is my greatest superpower and my greatest weakness, because the problem is that I start to let people who don't deserve my trust, who don't deserve to be close to me, I start allowing their toxic stuff to seep into my experience and my stuff. Like if I am, let's say, in a conflict situation with someone, I can tend to overindulge in their truth or experience that then replaces basically my own, which creates an environment of self-doubt and mistrust and gaslighting. And then I don't actually refer to myself as nowhere's not the word, but nowhere, the true voice of authority. And I allow that person to take the throne in my castle. And that's BS, right? So over empathizing. Don't be loyal as a dog, right? It's okay to have boundaries and keep yourself safe and protect the projects or the relationships or your own needs and emotional safety that you need. Another card that came up was lust. So yeah, just again, I kind of feel like the cards that came up for the underworld are your classic like temptations in a way. Like, so we've got the empathy. To me, that makes sense. And then you've got lust. So you've got Venus in Aries. So yeah, just lots of passion, lots of, I would even say envy in that, where it's like lust for what other people have. All of these are kind of distractions, to be honest. Other people who are really lusting after you maybe, and you've got that porous boundary and maybe not strong enough to like the people pleasing aspect of it. It's just like, oh my God, that's totally what comes up here. Mars and Leo, egotism. And I would say part of that is that people pleasing of like, well, will they like me, or will I disappoint them, or how will they view me if I do this? And it's like, girl or boy or anything in between, whatever. It's like, if you're feeling weird about the energy they're throwing your way, you're allowed to put up boundaries and put up that drawbridge, because they do not have the requirements that are necessary to get close to your heart, and that deserves to be protected, you know. And then we've got Mercury and Pisces again, so another Pisces card, and to me, again, for me, this is just about distraction. I would say, like, again, we're talking about underworld stuff for clarification around the bridge. And I would say people like baiting you about like, oh, this would be a really good partnership to collaborate in this way. And it's like, if you're feeling like some weird heebie-jeebies at all, don't do it. Don't do it. Because they be stealing stuff from you, you know? That's what I gotta say about that. And then finally, so in the past position, we have the crone card. For maybe a select few of you, this is actually like a mentor who's doing some shady shit behind your back. I don't really know. I'm just saying that could be one expression or manifestation. And then I'm going to jump around a little bit. The card that we have in the future position is orphan. And what I find really interesting about this layout, the way that it's presenting itself, is that typically in a triad, there is usually the triad of the mother, maiden, crone. And going this way, we have the mother, the crone, but an orphan. And I think it's really interesting because it skips the maiden, but it's like the maiden didn't get to have her time. Well, why? Where is she? And it's interesting because we have this almost sleeping beauty above it in the castle. So I feel like there's some sort of hint kind of around the maiden being a bit of either a missing piece here, because literally it's like missing from this triad. So it's like the crone is in position in the past. Maybe there's a protector there or guardian from that past space. The mother is your present. How are you showing up protecting the things in your life? How are you birthing projects? Like, how are you showing up as the caregiver in your relationships, either to your default or to your benefit, right? Who's over mothering you, right? How are you manipulating people emotionally through maybe a mother wound? Just all food for thought, right? And then the orphan in the future, I would almost say, like, you could read this as like a you know, the orphan's a sad card, right? But that doesn't mean that like you have to be sad about this, like in the future. What I would say is like, I'm feeling just really the call to parent, to nurture yourself, to be the divine masculine and feminine, to be the, you know, the king that is guarding the castle and everybody inside of it and making sure it's protected and safe so that the orphan knows that it isn't abandoned. Here, I will give, yeah. So the orphan here, we've got another snake shout out. So deep, deep transformation, shedding what is no longer working for you. And another rose, which is ultimate forgiveness, grace, compassion. And this little infant hand reaching out. And so there's a desire to be connected with source. There's a desire to be connected to that heart chakra. There is a desire to be connected, right? The orphan, and I'm going to go ahead and say this is like the Sleeping Beauty maiden inside the castle. It's like there is some sort of, yeah, I would say every time you don't listen to your intuition and you are proving yourself right, there, for me anyways, a sense of disappointment or frustration. And it's not helpful. It's more love, not less. If I've just abandoned myself and I become aware of it, that I haven't protected myself and now I'm hurt, I need more love, not less. Because as soon as I'm berating myself, I'm further abandoning this orphan child that needs my love and grace. And as soon as I allow that love and that grace into that orphan child, that sleeping part of us that maybe is afraid to be seen, the maiden is still innocence. She is still protected. You know, so I think it's really interesting that we're almost working backwards in this reading, you know, because normally, again, it would be like your baby self, your maiden, your mother, your crone. But in this reading, from the past to the future, we're actually going the opposite direction in a sense. So I find that really interesting. I'm sure something will pop into my head later that'll be like, oh my God, that was so obvious. How did you miss that? But it's not happening right now. So, anyway, there's some things to think about there. Interesting. Yeah, and so what I'll say too about the orphan card that I think is important to highlight here, because I don't want to leave with being like, oh my God, February is just going to be you abandoning yourself or feeling abandoned by other people. And that can be part of it. You might feel emotionally abandoned by other people or something. There are some challenging placements coming up in February, around, yeah, like the third week of February. But in that, what I want to invite you into is just, oh, I love it. Oh, that's the snake. It's like the snake eating its own tail. Allow that crone to inform and pick up that baby, right? And bring it its love and wisdom. Like allow those archetypes to kind of flow like in that figure eight between that crone, the mother, the orphan, and providing that safe space at the castle. But the orphan, all of these archetypes have levels of maturity. There's like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then phase 4 in its highest evolution. And so the story of the orphan goes that in the beginning, you feel abandoned by your parents, by society, whatever. And as a result, you get this, you know, curb stomping, F you, I'm a badass bitch, you know, kind of attitude, and isolate yourself, segregate yourself. Or the tribe, you know, kicks you out. And so you get just that attitude, right? Of like, fine, I don't need you anyway. And then you start rejecting people before they reject you. There's that hard, tough exterior, right? And then as it starts to evolve, it finds other orphans of the same vibration. And that's when you get the hooligans banding together and doing vandalism and just like, you know, kind of that teenagery sort of, a vibration for me anyway. And then the next evolution is real looking around and being like, oh, I thought these were my family, but it's not. We're all just super wounded and none of these guys care about me. Like they'll be the first one to pick my pockets anyway when I'm not looking, right? And realizing that. And then moving on from that group and then rather creating chaos for the sake of chaos and rebellion, there starts to be an awareness of like, well, if I'm going to fight, maybe I need to fight for something. I want to make something better. And then finding out what that is, and then starting to do that. And then as a result, attracting other people of like mind, of like values. And then before you know it, you have your own tribe of people who are actually your chosen family, actually have your back, and are actually your people. And so that's the highest level of the orphan, right? And then they can come in and start adopting other people into that tribe who are like mind. So that's part of that promise of grace and hope and forgiveness. And so as we move forward, it's such an Aquarian tale too, and we're moving Pluto into Aquarius, but I won't totally go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, so that's like that, higher outcome. So just know, or like walk with that in your step as you're walking through your month, that you might feel abandoned and alone and isolated. Lean into your ancestors. That's what I want to say about this card. That is the past. This is the crone. The crow, the crone is the message. How do I want to say? The crone represents having lots of wisdom from years of experience. And in that, you can liken it as well, or extend it backwards into the ancestral line. The crow is the messenger between the underworld and the upper worlds. It delivers messages, omens, etc. We've got a nice, it's not technically a penny, I don't know what to call this. It's got a Star of David on it, but it is a coin, I would assume, for the, the boat guy when he died. So there's an exchange of information here that happens. And what I just want to say about it being in this space of the past is that leaning into your ancestors and your lineage and those who were older than you to help project and get through the future, if that makes sense. And to help you remember that you aren't alone, you aren't abandoned, you're not this tiny little kid anymore, bumping around and not knowing anything anymore. You have experience, you have a voice of authority, you've refined yourself through use of experience. So lean into that so that you can create safety, right? Nourish yourself in healthy, balanced ways. Be aware of the temptations to oversmoke, oversleep, overeat, over sex, over, whatever. Or, I want to be part of this project and this project and this project. There's all of those things. Try to focus it in a little bit and choose, what do you actually want to bring into, what do you want to actually birth? What do you want to really bring into this life as part of your legacy? And working through those labor pains, if you will, of like, will I even survive this? Can I even do this? And then going back and leaning into that lineage of like, you've got wisdom in your bones, in your blood, in your breath, in your dream realm. There's so many resources available to you. Dip into them and allow the messages coming from the underworld, coming from the subconscious. Maybe that's how you turn this bridge into something that's working for you instead of working against you, right? If a bridge is going down, where is it leading? And am I the boss of the situation? You know what I mean? And am I open and willing to hear the messages, even if I don't like them, right? Am I going to allow there to be value in that? And am I going to allow it to shape and shift me, right? I hope that makes sense. I'm going to just pull a chakra card, I think, as the final. Yeah. So just pulling for Aries in February. And what is the best message for us to leave, to part with? We give great thanks to this medicine bundle and to the offering here. And we ask that one of these affirmations that are in our highest benefit and our highest good to walk with. Maybe I'll just go split the deck. So integration. So there is a release and a renewal. So it says, the release. I connect with the spirit of fire to transmute what no longer serves me. And the renew. I balance the fire of my being, igniting my light in the world. It's very appropriate as Aries fire signs. And then finally, if you're feeling a little heebie-jeebie, from the Archangel Michael deck, we've got, the situation is already resolved. My prayer: I give any worries, cares, and concerns to you in exchange for true peace in all ways. Thank you for resolving this, give details of situation, in a divinely perfect way. So yeah, if any of this is ringing true, like you feel like somebody is like abusing your boundaries, or you're feeling heebie-jeebie energy from a situation or a project, someone's coming in and trying to sneak those pearls from you. Maybe you just got to work on boundaries yourself. Like, I certainly don't want to be super superstitious, but just knowing that we're always exchanging and offering at all times. So just being really aware of what's coming and going in and out of your field, leaning into your ancestors, and standing firmly in what is true and right for you. And knowing that everything is okay, everything's already resolved, and you are divinely protected. So with that, I hope you have a lovely February. If you do want a personal reading from me, please PM. I do full spreads with this, and with also evolutionary astrology natal charts. And until then, be blessed. Thanks.